Mana-mana sejarah negara saya sering tekankan, tidak ada, bukan sering berlaku kesempatan untuk melakukan anjakan. Ya. Kita tidak menafikan jasa pemimpin-pemimpin dahulu meletakkan asas, sama ada perpecahan kaum, ya. Tetapi ada ketika di mana rakyat umumnya, terutama elemen sedar yang berfikir, untuk sama-sama merenung apakah yang kita lakukan sebelum ini mampu mengangkat atau melonjak kekuatan ekonomi, menyatu padukan rakyat dengan semangat perpaduan baru, dan menjawab beberapa tuntutan zaman dengan apa yang disebutkan era pasca normal, penuh dengan kerencaman, ketidakketentuan dan pancaroba, dan penemuan-penemuan baru dari peralihan tenaga, transformasi digital, artificial intelligence, cabaran perubahan iklim yang mencabar dan memungkinkan berlakunya kerusakan bumi dan keselamatan awam. Kemudian ketidaktentuan dalam geopolitik, kemarahan China sebagai kekuatan ekonomi baru yang besar, pentadbiran Amerika Syarikat dengan Presiden Donald Trump, kecelaruan, pergaduhan di banyak tempat di dunia, dan kemarahan sikap melampau, kebencian antara kaum, kebencian terhadap daerah atau wilayah atau agama yang terus marak. Jadi kita harus memberi jawapan. Kita maknanya anak-anak muda, ya, kerana kalau anak-anak muda itu selesa dengan tahap yang lama, dia tidak ada peranan untuk menyelamatkan negara. So I think we need to reflect seriously. We are, of course, many of you are students or professionals here, but it is our common resolve first to ascertain or to decide whether the present state of affairs is satisfactory, whether the governance is manageable, whether the culture of corruption and abuse of power should be tolerated, whether the growing sense of racism and religious bigotry can be handled. These are issues, pertinent issues that you must address. I'm not taking this opportunity just to create this environment of dissatisfaction or to foment distrust. No, I'm just giving you a challenge. You decide. Do you want Malaysia to be better and greater? Do you want to accept the state of affairs? Or you think it is the right opportunity to embark on reform and change? That is why I think the formation of the government, Paduan Bandar government, is unique by itself. Because it's a coalition. When they say, of course, coalition can be out of opportunism, just need to survive or secure power, or coalition because we accept the dictates and the demands of our time, whether we should use the occasion to get together and save the country or continue with past enmity and battles. Some of you, my children, may not realize that I would from UMNO, but we've been fighting them for decades. Don't smile, so are they. You know? But then it is the maturity, wisdom. You continue fighting. All right. You come together. On what grounds? Just to secure power, to enrich ourselves, to squander wealth from the country, to continue with endemic corruption, or to decide, yes, there have been excesses. There have been excesses in Malaysia. Financial scandals, abuse of power, tolerance of racist slurs, insults and abuse, be it pockets of poor in the urban areas or towards the minorities or towards the marginalized. Thank God, alhamdulillah, the leaders, and particularly of PH of course, Keadilan, DAP, and Amanah, and Barisan Nasional, but essentially UMNO, and of course with our partners in Sarawak, GPS, and Sabah, we say, look, let us come together based on fundamental principles. People seem to be cynical. They say, well, just to secure power, anything goes. No! We agreed on some fundamental principles. Certainly, constitutional guarantee is one. There's a consensus to say we support the constitutional guarantees. But we all agree, without exception, that things have to change. We must effect reform. We can't be talking about reform if we are not prepared to effect change in the manner we govern. Therefore, we start with governance, good governance. So it's not true if one should assume that it's just a coalition to maintain power at all costs. No. I'm not suggesting that this call for reform is only the Prime Minister. No. My colleagues are there as committed. Because we all accept, we know that we are grappled with this issue of almost systemic corruption. Billions of ringgit lost due to greed, to the culture of plundering. And therefore, we said, okay, stop the excesses, have proper tender procedures, and alhamdulillah, we have been able to do that. Because without that, there will be trust deficit. You can say whatever you want, pious platitudes will not convince. That is why we start with this fundamental rule and principles of governance, of separation of powers. But people, I'm not assuming that everyone understands. You look at this recent controversy by addendum, there's clearly some ignorance in this issue. You see, clarity in terms of power, authority, and the power and the discretion. For example, on the issue of pardons, and purely the issue left to the rulers, not the Prime Minister. In the pardons board, the process, the authority is made clear, and the process is also made clear. So there are challenges, of course, because the level of understanding and sophistication varies. So my first point is, therefore, governance which include a strong resolve to fight corruption at all costs and save the country from the plunderers. Is it easy? No. It's not easy. I have often thought, those days I was in the opposition, particularly when I was young, like you, I said, look, we have leadership, staff, full resolve to fight the corrupt. No compromise. And not only is that a correct decision, but there will be total support, because the vast majority hates corruption. Is that true? No. Inshallah, the majority does. But there's so many political leaders, MPs, opposition members, who suddenly start championing the corrupt. The people who had a position of power as Prime Minister, Finance Minister in the past, who are known to have amassed wealth, set up banks overseas and enrich themselves. When we ask them to declare assets, we've been questioned. That's why I come back to appeal to the young. You decide. If you want this to continue, then let them go. I was asked just now by the Financial Times, the interview, just now. He said, like Mandela, have you forgiven? I said, yes. There are people who assaulted me to near death. Have I forgiven? Yes. I didn't mention. In all my speeches, I've forgotten about it. I've been imprisoned back and forth 2.5 years. There's no issue. Why? Because national interests override your personal predicament. Yes, suffered. Not only me, Aziza, Nuriza here, we all suffered. But we have to move on. I've discussed in the cabinet members here, Jawada, Zafrulada, Zamri, have I talked about that predicament? I joke about it, maybe, but never seriously taking up the old issues. But there's a difference. When you take billions from the public purse, it's not for me to forgive. It's not my money, not my father's money. It's the people's money. So my decision is, you take from the country and the people, you return the money to the people, no compromise. Then, if you agree, fair. Now I want to get these parameters right, you see, so that people don't sit in apportion blame, because how do you govern then? Okay. Having said that, okay, governance, good governance, fair. Are you able to effect change and reform immediately? No. I've seen countries, when you have new leaders, you want to effect immediate reform, tax reform, institutional reform, they don't survive. Because you must plan wisely, take measures and steps wisely, and communicate to the people. Between some of the administrative reforms and food on the table, bread and butter issues, the Rakyat say, food on the table and bread and butter issues. So that has got to be dealt with. So we have our ministers who have to work this slog. All right? Now, with that sort of commitment to effect change, reform, we should learn from the past experiences. In Europe, post-Cold War, there were countries from Poland to Czechoslovakia, for example, becomes Czechs and Slovak. There were sometimes good, outstanding leaders who wanted to effect reform. But what happened? The demands by the initial elite clique calling for reform so fast that finally the system fell apart. The system cannot hold. Like what W.B. Yeats referred to, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. So in our case, the center must hold. So changes must be well planned, orchestrated, so that it is effective. That certainly changes must be gradually implemented, and the impact must be seen to benefit the majority of our people. Now, we go to the second point. Now, don't worry, there are 20 points. So, with good governance and clarity, that the fact that you have to affect change gradually. In every ministry, of course, they talk about the Prime Minister, of course. But then every minister, you ask Joe in his ministry, what to do with the main industry, the main plantation, what to do with the smallholders, all being discussed. Can you do it in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? No. But are we doing it? Yes. That's important. There's reform higher education. You ask me, I will tell Zamri, do it tomorrow. 2027. Who wants to wait for 2027? What may you think you will be minister in 2027? I'm not indicating anything. But what I mean is the urgency to effect reform must be there, right? Like when we said, things change. You must change. For example, you ask me about the Bahasa policy. I say, no compromise. Every single Malaysian, whatever stream of education, it does not matter, you must have a satisfactory level of proficiency in Bahasa Kebangsaan. Okay? Now, but you also know the need to enhance the level of proficiency of the English language, which means with Bahasa accepted, we must promote aggressively and effectively our proficiency in the English language, because it is so internationalized, trade, investments, and people, one of the major attractions of investors to Malaysia is also language, proficiency. Well, there will be some reaction. Anwar now is a traitor because he has now been seen to be promoting Bahasa Inggeris. Ni otak. Always quoting out of context. Yeah. And then I was in secondary school, Jitsin, Bukit Metajam. I used to teach as a temporary teacher before I was admitted to University Malaya. Of course I should. Concern and call on them to effectively teach Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Kebangsaan, and then of course Bahasa Mandarin, fair. And I told them Bahasa Mandarin language is no longer a language of the ethnic Chinese in Malaysia. It has become an important economic language in the region. So one master Bahasa Melayu because it's a Malaysian, Bahasa Inggeris because it's an international language, and the other Bahasa Cina. It is a plus. I was talking with some of the companies today. Zafrul was there. Major inroads projects into Taiwan. Of course, an advantage when you have engineers, Malaysian engineers, proficient in the Mandarin language. Okay. So I decided then to give some support, because these are independent schools, no funds from the government. But the schools are doing well. There's a history to that. I'm not entering into that. But then I said, okay, each school gets about 320,000. I'm sure, Johanna, the KSP. 320,000 to total about 20 million ringgit. Wow, the opposition went berserk. Look, Anwar went to the Chinese schools and gave 20 million at the expense of the Malays and sekolah agama and sekolah kebangsaan. Amanda ni. You know, allocation for education is more than 20 billion. For religious schools and for JAKIM is 2 billion ringgit. Why do you need to sow the seed of discord and hatred just because I decide to support? It's just token, you see, to show my appreciation and to suggest to them that no, proceed with Bahasa other than Chinese. But you see, A wise, rational policy, if not communicated effectively, will be used, exploited by these silly, corrupt politicians to confuse the masses. Yeah. Does it make sense? Yeah. For JAKIM and Kementerian Agama, including religious education, of course they get per school maybe less in terms of additional grant, but the total allocation is 2 billion ringgit. You see, that is why I'm saying here, a correct policy, if not well communicated, and you allow this desperate, semi-educated political leaders, we will face potential problem. Don't take it lightly, because it's your country. It doesn't matter. As I've said, and I will reiterate this point, what I said to LSE this morning. Ada yang dengar tadi di LSE? Yes, thank you, yes. Yang cerdik je pergi. I'm joking, sorry. I said what? I said, if you want to become a listening leader, you can be from UMNO. Well, all the 3 ministers are from UMNO, you know that? Oh my God. The only Kandila from Nuriza and Samsul Iskandar. But I'm comfortable, I don't have a problem. You see, why? Because whether they're Kandila or UMNO, DAP or GPS, GRS, they subscribe to one policy and look at the national interests. I salute them for that. You see? Now, if we have that understanding of policy and know the challenges, then you have what I normally call clarity of policies. And that's not insanely mine, it's promoted by our team in various ministries, new industrial master plan, energy transition roadmap, digital transformation, national semiconductor strategy. I mean, all these policies are impressive because potential investors will look at this. Okay, the challenge is an effective enforcement or implementation of these policies. So there are challenges. That's where the administrative reform is important. And I must commend our civil service for responding to this and undertaking effective measures to correct the excesses of the past. Sometimes, lackadaisical attitude, sometimes delay, and accept. Why not? Things that you can approve in 2 hours, you have to wait 20 days. Yeah, I'm sure many of you have experienced that in the past. Now we have revised the salary scheme, and I say to them, you deserve that, because for the last 12 years there was no revision, no increase in salary of the civil servants. But it comes with certain responsibility. No increase for the ministers. In fact, 20% potong. But increase for the civil servants. Okay? And they deserve it. What is the financial cost? 10 billion ringgit extra this year. 18 billion ringgit extra in 2026. Thank you. You are clapping for your parents. But, so let them do it. We continue to monitor. Am I satisfied? Well, yes, in some ways. But I am rather impatient because I also see some issues and problems. I fail to understand if one has to wait for 3 hours to go to JPJ or immigration, whatever. No excuse. Right? And this is what reform is all about. That's clarity, policies, implementation. Now, you have to deal with these issues. Okay? We are appealing to you You are the future, and the challenges in this post-normal times, what's termed as simultaneity, coming at the same time. You have to have a level proficiency of Bahasa and English and Mandarin for some of you, and then you have digital, and you have AI, and you have to be aware of climate challenge, and so all these things have to be grappled with. Therefore, the educational standards have to then respond fast and effectively. So, please bear with us, do whatever you can to improve and support this agenda. I'm here, as you know, on the invitation of Prime Minister K. Stama. I had a good meeting with him, with my colleagues, and I'm very pleased with his response, his commitment, and I can see that he is taking this sort of relationship between Malaysia and Singapore, Malaysia and UK seriously, and they have approved the CPTPP in December, which means easier path to trade and investments, and it is interesting. After that meeting, next month they are sending the Minister for Development, the following month the Minister of Investment to Minister of Indo-Pacific to Malaysia. See? Which means we are hoping after this visit a sort of enhanced bilateral relations in a comprehensive and strategic manner. And they would of course benefit our students here, and some of the issues that you have raised, your concerns, hopefully inshallah we can help resolve them.